So before you go into this video, I highly recommend you go watch my previous video. That video is more of a prequel to this one. I'll give the link of the video above and I'll also mention it below. So in the last video, we discussed about China's international problems right now, the crisis that China is facing at an international level and how it will sow seeds for the next economical superpower in the world. How a lot of countries and a lot of organizations are trying to exit China and they are looking forward to setting up manufacturing hubs in alternate countries. Can India be the next economical superpower? Can India be that alternative for China? Well, that is what we are going to find in this video. Is this economically viable? Is there a chance of this coming true? So in order to figure out if India can be the next economical superpower, we first need to understand how China became an economical superpower in the first place. In fact, China is the second largest economy right after United States. How did this happen? Because if you see, until the 1970s, both India and China kind of had similar growth patterns. Both were agro-based countries. India is still an agro-based country, but however, China's economy started booming post 1980. The GDP started spiking up. What exactly happened in the decade of 1980 and 1990s? So how did China had a massive economic success and became the second largest economy in the world? Let me take you back to 1980 China. So in the 80s and the early 90s, China started opening to a lot of foreign trade and investments and manufacturing. Numerous number of countries and companies seized this opportunity and started establishing their manufacturing hubs in China because of how easy it was to manufacture their products at such a very low cost. For example, if a product had to be manufactured in the United States and it cost about $100, the same product to be manufactured in China costed barely between $30 to $40. So even the competitors of the companies which were manufacturing in China started manufacturing in China because they were unable to give the price at which these companies were selling their products at. For example, if a company is set up in China and if they are manufacturing in China, the selling cost of the product would be very less compared to a product which is made outside China, because when it was made outside China, the labor cost was expensive, the infrastructure was poor, and China's supply link and supply chain is something out of this world. The other countries were unable to compete with China in terms of manufacturing. So a lot of companies and countries started establishing their manufacturing hubs in China because it proved successful and profitable for their businesses. And this is exactly where China seized the opportunity. They started developing their supply chain, their infrastructure, their roadways, both national and international, their railways, harbors and shippings, and they became the manufacturing hub of this planet. And immediately as a result of this, within a matter of a decade, their GDP started spiking up, their economy started booming, and the per capita income started shooting up as well. The country got wealthier and wealthier and wealthier. After this, no country wanted to leave China because leaving China would mean that their production cost would go up, and that would mean their selling cost will also go up, and that just meant non-profitable for their businesses. This is the reason why the entire tagline "Made in China" became super famous. You go to any store and majority of the products, if you flip the tag, it's written "Made in China." That is how much they globally dominated the manufacturing industry, and the nation got wealthier, and the nation eventually became the second largest economy in the world. But how did China do this? What helped China to achieve this massive economical feat? Workforce, infrastructure. They had the population to do this. Their labor cost was the cheapest on this planet. No other country was able to provide the kind of labor cost that China was providing, because that is the amount of massive population they had and their infrastructure, their supply chains and supply links. However, the citizens of the country, as the per capita started going up, what was once a huge advantage for China became its disadvantage post 2010s. Since the per capita income went up, the labor cost also went up. People were demanding a lot more money than what they used to be. So eventually what happened, the products that were made in China were no longer made at the same cost that they were made previously, because since the labor cost went up, the production cost also went up. And this was the reason why the economy kind of started deteriorating. The manufacturing industries kind of started deteriorating, shrinking after 2010, especially after 2016, it was significantly shrinking. So the countries and companies which were dependent on China for so long started looking for alternative countries. Now this is where the entire question of India being the next alternative comes into place. However, as it happened before, as companies moved out of China, as companies and countries established their manufacturing hubs in another country other than China, the answer is Vietnam. One of the biggest sports companies in the world, Nike, when they had the chance to establish their manufacturing hubs in either China or Vietnam, they went with Vietnam because the labor cost was comparatively lesser than China. I will come back to it later. Nike started establishing their manufacturing hubs and started producing their products. And it was not just Nike, numerous number of companies chose Vietnam as the perfect alternative for China. It seems like this whole finding another alternative country already seems to be a very successful module for numerous number of countries which actually did that. Right now, with all this pandemic situation going on, the European Union, the United States and Australia have combinedly decided to move out a lot of companies out of China, especially United States and even Japan as well. If you had watched my previous video, all of this would make sense. Now we come to the final question, can India be the next China? If you look at the economy of India, it is still a very much agro-based country. India was never famous for its manufacturing industries in the last 200 years. At one point, India used to be one of the biggest manufacturing hubs in the world. That was until the British screwed us up. That's an entirely different subject. Let's not go into it. It's another video for another day. But right now, India is an agro-based country. Whatever the growth that the country has had so far came from service-based industries such as information technology, retailing, and banking. That is where majority of the success came for India. It was never from manufacturing. But has India not manufactured anything? Is India not capable of manufacturing? No, not at all. India is the second largest mobile phone manufacturer in the world. In fact, in 2019, last year, India manufactured about 15 crore mobile devices. That's number 2 on this planet. So India definitely has the capacity to manufacture. We have the workforce. 50% of India's population is from 0 to 30 years old. We have a very high skilled educated workforce and the labor cost is also much lesser in India compared to China. For example, as I previously mentioned, what used to be China's advantage has become disadvantage over the years because of its per capita shooting up. The average laborer's pay in India is 350 rupees, whereas in China it's 1960. That means at the cost of laboring one person in China, you could labor almost 5 in India. That is the labor cost that we have in this country. And it's not without reason India is considered as the world's office. But what is that one thing that we don't have that China has is the infrastructure. Their infrastructure is something out of this world and India can just not be compared with China's infrastructure. Their roadways, their railways, their harbors, their shipping, their supply link, their supply chain, all of this is unimaginable. India is trying very hard to catch up, but China is far ahead of India in terms of infrastructure. So we have to fix that first. Until that's fixed, this cannot happen. But however, numerous number of companies are approaching India. Almost 300 companies are ready to come to India and start establishing their manufacturing hubs. And recently, India started looking at their landscape. Land is very sacred in this country and it is not easily done. Land and water is one of the topmost priorities for setting up manufacturing hubs. So that is something that India has to deal with. India is mapping coastlines as well in order to give the best supply link and chain that are possible, because coastlines generally come with harbors and easy shipping as well. So India definitely has a huge opportunity here. It is undeniable that a lot of countries are trying to exit China and they're looking for an alternative country. Especially in Asia, the top 4 countries are India, Vietnam, South Korea and Japan, and India will be the number 1 priority for almost all the countries and companies because of the massive landscape that we have. But however, how are we going to capitalize on this situation? That is the real question. So can India be the next economical superpower? Yes, we do have the opportunity for it right in front of our eyes, but it just does not come from the opportunity. It comes from the right implementation from the government. The government has to make sure that they do whatever that is possible to use this opportunity, because this is once in a lifetime opportunity and this does not happen even in every decade. So can India capitalize on this and become the next big thing in terms of economics? I would like to believe so, but it is just not the belief of a citizen that makes things happen. It is the right implementation from the government and the officials who are responsible for making this happen. India is quite famous for its corruptions, but let us all keep it aside and hope that they do their best and do whatever that is possible to give a shot at this opportunity of India becoming one of the biggest economical superpowers. With all this being said, I hope you liked the video. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below, and until I see you again, take care, stay home, stay safe.
I'ma take it.